Hello everyone, this is Doug from Dank MTG and we're here with another Modern Deck Tech. Today we are going over my personal favorite deck, Jeskai, or blue, white, red, mid-range, Geist. So, as the name might suggest, it is a mid-range aggro control build with Geist of Saint Draft. For the first general strategy, you want to use all of this interaction and removal to keep the field clear. And then, once you have neutralized a lot of the opponent's main threats, you start dropping your creatures or your Planeswalkers or hitting them with colonnades to reduce their life total down to 0. So we're going to start over here with the creatures. I have a playset of Snapcaster Mage. Flash it in, get a spell out of the graveyard, flash it back. Allows you to reuse your removal or your center. Burn to the face, Bolt Snap Bolt is a real thing. Flash it in as a blocker if you have to.
It's very toolboxy-ish.
Yes, it very much is. Lots of utility. And if all else fails, you can flash it in on the end step, untap and attack with it.
Put in Ambush Viper mode, right, Tugs?
Ambush Viper mode is pretty relevant sometimes, yes. So, on to the star of the deck. 4 Geist Saint Draft. It wouldn't be blue, white, red Geist without Geist. Hexproof 2/2. Doesn't seem that great, even though the hexproof is immune to pretty much everything except Liliana of the Veil. However, when he attacks, you get a 4/4 angel attacking with him, tapped and attacking. Yes, the token goes away after combat, but if didn't it be broken? But he is your main beat stick, used to, of course, beat off. Very powerful, very difficult or hard to remove. Just an all-star in smacking things in the face, which is what he is there for. 3 Restoration Angels, 3/4 Flash Flyer, decent body, but what she's there for is the ETB effect. When she enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control and then return it to the field. So she blinks your creatures, blinking a Snapcaster, which gets his ETB again. You can save Geist by blinking him out of combat. You can blink your Vendilion clicks to get their ETBs, so just a nice utility. Allows you to reuse your ETB effects, save Geist, or just, again, block, and very great utility. Speaking of Vendilion Click, 3/1 Flash Flyer, and enters the battlefield. You can look at your opponent's hand and choose a non-land card from it, and they tuck it to the bottom of their library, but they also get to draw a card. And I said that wrong. You can do it to either player. Great for getting information. Great for finding out what your opponent is doing, what they have in their hand, so you can develop a strategy to play around it. And if you have a handful of dead cards, you can target yourself and get rid of one and draw something new. So, great utility there. On to spells, we have 4 Path to Exile, just for getting rid of things that are out of burn range. Yes, the opponent gets a land, but, you know, if it's a choice between them getting an extra land or having a Goyf that's attacking you, I would get rid of the Goyf. So Path is great for removing those larger threats. We have a giant burn package here. Lightning Bolt, self-explanatory, it's Bolt. Helix is Bolt with some life gain tacked onto it, great for stabilization.
It's reach.
And again, all of this is reach. For the reach around, yes. We have a pair of electrolyzers, good for splitting damage and taking out smaller creatures or just, you know, hitting something hard. And also, it's a cantrip, which is useful because drawing cards is a good thing. Now, a lot of Geist lists will run Remand, again for the cantrip. I run on Substantiate, return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. I do this for a few reasons. One, and the main one, is returning a creature to its owner's hand allows you to, well, the obvious application is to remove a blocker to get Geist through. However, you can also bounce back your snaps or your restos or your clicks, or even your own Geist, to get them and use them again. Save Geist with it, bounce anything with an ETB back and replay it. Again, a very nice flexible card. And also it returns target spell. It doesn't say counter, so uncounterable things like Abrupt Decay or Supreme Verdict, you can in fact return to the opponent's hand. We have a pair of Winds of Abandon. This is something that I've been trying out recently. So it reads as a sorcery speed 2-mana path. However, it has overload. So for 6 mana, you can remove their entire board. And it, again, great early game if you need an extra, single target spot removal. Or later game, you can use it as a board wipe. Onto my Planeswalkers, I have 2 Gideon of the Trials. Gideon is just a great utility card. You can bubble an opposing threat to keep them from hitting you. He can turn into a creature and attack, so if you need some extra reach, he's there. Or you can emblem him and force the opponent to get rid of him and just kind of, force the opponent to deal with him and get some tempo off of delaying them from getting their strategy off as soon as they want to.
So a lot of people call him Chad. What does Tugs call him?
I call him Tidian. Because look at those pecs, man. Then we have 2 of my favorite Planeswalkers, Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Again, there for all that versatility. You can exile the top card and either be able to cast it or shock the opponent. Add double red to your mana pool. Pays for Bolt, then you just have to pay for Snap, or it can help activate Celestial Colonnade. Flame Slash, if you just have to get that blocker out of the way, or not die, that's always a thing. And the final exists. Don't judge Planeswalkers off of their final ability, but, embleming and adding an extra 5 damage to all of your spells is a thing that can happen. I've done it a few times. So Chandra's there. She does her job. So that's the non-land stuff. Onto the lands. We've got 4 of the Canopy lands, 2 Sunbaked Canyon, and 2 Fire Islet. Great for mana fixing, but they're also there for the cantrip. You can sack it and draw a card. It's great if you need the land, it's there as a land. If you're flooding, you can sack it and draw something else, hopefully. On to some more utility over here. We have Iganjo Castle. Taps for white, but you can pay white and tap it to prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to target legendary creature this turn. Normally red, target Geist of Saint Draft. If they're trying to Pyroclasm or, they have a low power blocker, you can keep Geist alive. He's the point. Then we've got 3 Celestial Colonnades, including this super nice altered one.
Tugs, how does that make you feel?
Makes me feel very dank. Enter's tapped, but that's fine because it's generally relevant later in the game. Taps for Azorius. And for 5 mana, 3 generic and Azorius, until end of turn it becomes a 4/4 flyer with vigilance. Because that's fun. Great for blocking or great for punching through if you have the opportunity to do so. Shocklands, we have a Sacred Foundry, a Hallowed Fountain, and 2 Steam Vents, because Shocklands. And because they work so well together, we have 4 Flooded Strands, 2 Arid Maces, and 2 Scalding Tarns to act as our fetch lands to allow us to find those shocks and basically get the color fixing we need. So yeah, that's our fetch shock battery, that's our man lands, that's our other utility lands, and now we're on to basics. We've got 2 islands, a mountain, and a plains for our basic lands. So, and as you can tell, they are really nice foils. Yeah, Onslaught. Woo. Great foil lands. So that is the main deck of Geist. Now on to the sideboard here. We have 2 rest in pieces to deal with graveyards, so things like Dredge and anything else that might like the graveyard. It can shrink Tarmogoyf, stuff like that. We have 3 Leyline of Sanctity, mainly there for, obvious application is Burn, Jund, because you can stop their, Thoughtseizes, Inquisitions, keep Liliana of the Veil from forcing you to edict away your Geist, so really great. The random mill player, if they show up,
And what would the name be?
Normally that player would be Teabag J, yes. One of my old friends from high school had a mill deck, and his name is TJ, but we call him Teabag J. We have a Deafening Clarion.
Can you attest to that name of him?
Oh, yes. We have a Deafening Clarion. It's a 3 damage board wipe, or can give my creatures lifelink.
That's some spice right there, Tug.
That is some spice. So it can clear out an early board that's overwhelming my spot removal. It can help me stabilize with lifelink on, say, a Resto, or a Colonnade, or Tidian, of course. Or if you really manage to get there, it can do both.
Colonnade.
Colonnade, yep. We've got a pair of Dispels and a pair of Dovin's Vetoes for some hard counter magic, because sometimes just bouncing it isn't enough. Sometimes you need it actually gone. So, against control, anything else that you just need to counter crap, then yeah. I chose Veto over Negate because of the can't be countered. Although Negate is also a very solid option. Pair of Abrades. 3 damage to a creature or destroy target artifact. Great application for this is Vial decks. You can either kill their Aether Vial or a creature. And that is pretty great. Also, other things that really like artifacts. Amulet Titan is another is a high tier deck right now that it is relevant there for there.
Azusa
and
Amulet.
And kills Amulet, yes.
And Engineered Explosives.
And Engineered Explosives. So definitely a good job. We have the best proxy damping spheres I've ever seen. It is the D sphere, so notice the D there.
It's a sphere with a D.
Yep, exactly. It is very, again, good for, fighting Tron, good for fighting, again, Amulet.
Storm.
What?
Storm.
Storm, because of the second ability there. Keeps them from going off too hard. So.
How about the new decks, the escape decks? What are they called?
I don't.
The breach decks now?
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, Texas is too, so.
Mm-hmm. So, very flexible sideboard card. And a wear tear for dealing with artifacts and enchantments. So, that is a very brief rundown of Jeskai Geist. It's a fun deck. I enjoy it a lot. We're obviously running out of time here, so we'll have to follow up in another video about strategy and just gameplay tips and some other information about the deck. But we'll have that up soon.
So this deck was, didn't you do a tech on this like about a year or so ago?
Yeah, I did this a little while ago. Back then it had Lightning Angels. Back then it had a few other things to it. So this is the update.
Which version do you like better?
I'm actually liking this version. The Flash gives you a little more flexibility.
So some common questions, Tugs, is why Gideon instead of Teferi? Or why not Teferi anywhere in this list? Because a lot of your spells are either instant speed, except for Geist itself.
Yeah.
And the winds. A lot of people are asking about the winds.
Yeah. So my answer with Teferi is Teferi tends to work best with Spell Queller because of the lock. And yes, you can run Geist and Spellcaller and Teferi in the same deck for a more tempo approach to it. This is just more of a personal choice if I like approaching all in with Team Geist. And also, Jeff Hoogland's Jeskai Tempo deck simply does the Teferi thing better than I would in my current configuration. So, we will discuss that deck sometime on the channel as well.
That does bring up another question. So why no Spellcaller?
Why no Spellcaller? Because, well, again, for me, it was personal preference. I liked playing the quote-unquote old-school Geist list that ran more like this. However, the Queller list is very, very valid As a matter of fact, there are some metas where you would rather have Queller over Geist and just play Flash.
Yeah, I was gonna, well, let's go back to that other question. Why the Winds?
The Winds of Abandon.
Because that looks like a cyber card where like other people either play just another value spell there. Same with Electrolyze. And like Wind seems a lot more like a cyber card.
Yeah.
Or what's the argument between the Winds just main board and Winds over Settle the Wreckage?
With Settle the Wreckage, like...
Because you won't want a main board settle.
No, not usually. I've seen it before, but it was generally a one-off. But as far as Winds of Abandon versus Settle the Wreckage, Settle's nice because you can, settle and keep your Geist alive, and that's a really nice draw to it. But what I like about Winds is it's relevant in more parts of the game. Turn 2 to turn 3, it can be used as just basically an extra copy of Path, albeit slower. But if you hit the mana and you need to, the Overload is there as an option. So it just gives you a little more flexibility. Now, granted, there are other options that could go in this slot. I've, in the past, tested things like Burst Lightning for some more burn.
Reach.
And Reach. Yeah, I've tested Valorous Stance. That was popular a few years ago.
Charm.
Boros Charms. I've tested all sorts of things in this flex slot. This is just what I'm running right now. The Electrolyzes have just always worked for me. I like the, ability for Reach, the ability to kill multiple small creatures, the cantrip. I just really like this card. Could something be better in certain metas? Yes, but for me it works pretty darn well. As far as the Planeswalkers, well, originally in the original Team Geist list, these were Thundermaw Hellkites or Stormbreath Dragons or a large 5-mana beat stick, which I can kind of see the draw of that, turn 1 and 2 interaction, turn 3 ideally Geist, turn 4 Resto, turn 5 beat stick. The problem with that is if you get mana screwed at any point during that curving out, you are set back a turn with a dead card in your hand. It's not the greatest feeling. I've had that happen to me on multiple occasions. And I liked Gideon in some testing because you still have that option to be that beat stick. But one, he's 3 mana as opposed to 5, and 2, you get additional options that a dragon does not give you. And Chandra, honestly, she's there because she's my favorite Planeswalker, and she's dang.
So a lot of people when they think Jeskai, they think like the tempo version, or the next side of the coin would be control. Mm-hmm. This seems very in the middle. What are your thoughts on that? How does this play in comparison to control, tempo, or like where is this? Is this superior than those?
I wouldn't say it's superior. As a matter of fact, the Queller tempo list that Jeff Hoogland is playing is probably the better deck in just overall meta picture. This
because it's so versatile?
Yeah, because of its versatility.
And its flexibility too.
And its flexibility, that too. This, again, is my personal build and how I personally enjoy it with my play style and everything. But the nice thing about Jeskai is it's a very flexible archetype. If you're more of a control player, you can play Jeskai Control. If you want mid-range more focused on interaction, you can play Tempo. If you want a little bit of tempo with a little more aggression in mid-range, you can do, the Queller with Geist, if you want that kind of...
The Flash version.
The Flash version. And if you want to be more all-in on Geist, there is Team Geist. So there's really something along the spectrum on Jeskai for pretty much any play style. It really comes down to what you as the player want. Meta does matter. There have been times where I'm like, Flash with Geist out of the sideboard might almost be better than this, because Geist can get blocked so easily. You play a Flash tempo game turn 1, that they're expecting that, and then you board in Geist, and all of a sudden they have to...
A transformative sideboard.
Yes, a transformative sideboard, exactly. So again, it might depend what you want to run on playstyle. It might depend on meta. It might be a combination of all of them. But the nice thing about Jeskai is there really is something for pretty much any type of player who wants to play these colors.
So, I'm very curious about the deafening. Why not anger? Or like just another kind of rat spell? Like why not Supreme Judge? Day of Judgment. You know, Wrath God or Supreme Verdict.
The deafening.
Or anger, like was that your go-to wrath? Because you did mention Winds is flexible enough to be
a wrath
when you need it to be.
The deafening is actually one of the slots that I'm still testing out because in all of the games that I have played, I have never drawn this at all.
Singleton.
Which is kind of funny. So it's basically still there until I actually draw it and can actually give it legitimate testing. It's kind of there because I haven't drawn it yet. But I would definitely consider things like a Supreme Verdict or an Anger of the Gods or a Wrath of God as an alternative to this. This is literally there as a to be tested, I've just not drawn it yet slot.
Okay, so what would you say its best matches, worst, and favorite matches are?
As in the deck as a whole?
Yeah, this deck. Not you yourself. But.
Yeah, this deck as a whole, I think its best matchups are, oh man, like creature based decks where all this interaction can come into play. Surprisingly enough, a matchup that has been very close for me has been Death Shadow, because I've got the interaction here to hold the opponent off at bay, and then I've got some powerful threats to, follow up. Plus the fact that Death Shadow is hurting itself makes the reach from the burn actually relevant. Worst matchups to that are traditional GBX, where they're not hurting themselves. They're
just attrition and value.
Yeah, just the attrition is a lot harder to deal with.
And their hand disruption. I know this deck is really weak to hand disruption, but
it is.
Even then, it can play through it yeah. With Geist and snaps.
The ley lines definitely help though. When I was playing this without ley lines out of the sideboard, those matchups were definitely a lot tougher.
Yeah, you're very underfavored.
Yes. Now it's a bit more even. I'm still unfavored, but it's more of a fighting chance.
Big mana decks too, like Tron, Titan.
Tron and Titan are
those usually have a favor game one.
Yes, because they're definitely...
They just overwhelm.
They're faster and they can just race better than I can. And they simply have bigger payoffs than I do.
So with that in mind, have you not considered Disdainful?
Disdainful Stroke is definitely one that I've considered, and I've run it in the past. I am going to admit that I have not actually touched this sideboard in a while, so it may be time to consider an update. And that would be one because of the resurgence of big mana decks, Titan Shift and Amulet and Tron, of course. It might be an idea to have a Disdainful in my sideboard just for those types of matchups because they've become more prevalent. And also, I have the D-Sphere, so that will help.
It does.
And yes, I would totally run these in the tournament. If not, because they're being pedantic, I will have my D-Spheres altered to look like this because I can.
I'll tell you what are some of your closing notes, because you've been playing Sec for over 5 years or so.
I will say that it's not necessarily the most competitive choice if you're just trying to grind a pro tour or something like that. But when it works well. And the most important thing for me is I have a lot of fun playing it. And it makes me hard. So, that's my thoughts on my Geist deck. This is Doug from Dank MTG signing off. And as always, stay dank. Yeah.